Hello, this is part 5 of the bowling alley project, and you've assembled and constructed all of the parts that you're going to need. You will still be adding sounds, and you will be adding a camera effect, but that's not going to be for the rough draft. Now we need to look at the arrangement of your layers in the Layers panel, so I've popped it open right here. The title of your bowling alley would need to be on the top. Next would be that top board there, that area. The next thing, which is hidden at the moment, is the sweep rack. Following that is the pin setter. Then the ball should be below that. Next would be the pins, the folder for the pins. And then I have a little extension on my floor down here. You may not. And then the backsplash is that dark area, which if you created everything from scratch, you may have some other kind of object, perhaps something that's goes across the whole way, that's something dark. The next below that would be that bottom piece of the background, or whatever you may have created from scratch for your background. And then I just have this blank layer one down here that I like to keep if I want to look at everything and not have anything selected. So you may or may not have that layer. Okay, so I've put the layers panel back in. I switched out that blue ball for my favorite one with the little face. And if you've got everything all ready to go, then we can start animating just a couple of things. So I've zoomed out a little bit. Remember, your ball needs to start down here below the stage. Be sure that you're on frame 0 if you move it. And also remember that you have to set your origin point for the ball. If you haven't done that yet, just click on the Set Origin icon and then click and drag around until you find the center of the ball. Now click on Transform Layer, and down in the timeline, go to frame 48. We want the animation to have nothing happening for the first couple of seconds. And then in the main menu, click on Animation, Add Keyframe. I'm getting this warning message because my ball is in a bone folder with switch layers for the face. If you didn't happen to do that, you won't get this message. We've set up keyframes here for layer translation, layer scale, and layer rotation. And that's going to be very important because we'll be changing the scale as it goes away from us, and I'll be rotating too. Now the length of your lane might be a little bit different than mine, could be longer, could be shorter, but as a ballpark time frame, we're going to go 2 seconds, which, as you know, these markers each indicate 1 second. And so I'll go to frame 96 on the timeline. Make sure I have transform layer selected, and then I'll drag the ball closer to the pins and shrink it. I'll need to zoom in. A bowling ball is a little less than twice the width of pins. So that's your general guideline for how small to get it here. And of course, this being a cartoon, you don't have to stick exactly with that guideline. And then you want it to stop where the bottom of the ball is, very close to the bottom of the front pins. Also, many bowling balls travel at an arc when they go down a lane. I'm going to zoom out again and see my whole lane here. And then down on the timeline, I'm going to drag back. I need to click on my transform layer again. I have to see my path. So I don't want a straight path. I want a little bit of an arc. And the way I can do that is just by moving a couple of places on the timeline. The ball is here. You can drag it over just a little bit, go back a little further and drag it a little bit. Now that's not going to be a whole lot of an arc, but you know, you could do a lot more. You could drag it even further and and really put a strong arc on the ball. Remember, you can make adjustments as long as you go right on top of the keyframe in the timeline, then you can adjust it. But if you don't end up right on top of it, you're just going to create an additional keyframe and your path will start looking like a little bit of a mess. Okay? You should test the speed of your ball. 2 seconds may have been too long or too short for you. All you need to do if you want to adjust the speed, select all the keyframes here on 96. If you want it to go faster, you would drag them to the left. Slower, and you would drag it to the right. And then you may need to adjust any of these keyframes in here for the arc. If you needed to change those at all, you can just drag those around too. And remember, if you're having trouble grabbing them, click on the zoom tool until these keyframes get larger and then you can grab them more easily. Now when the ball reaches the end of its path, we need to make it disappear. So for me, that's frame 96. I'm going to go one frame past that. So I'll be stopping at 97. In the Layers palette, I will double click on the ball layer. I'll uncheck the visible box and click OK. I also want to rotate my ball because I have a face and it'll look more interesting that way. If you added any shading, ball holes, a face, whatever, then you'll probably like this effect too. So I'll go back to frame 96. And then up here in the settings, next to angle, I'll type in 360 for starters and hit enter. And if I test it, I can see if I like it. I feel like that wasn't quite enough, so pulling my scrub bar back over frame 96 again and looking up here next to angle, I'm going to add to that a little bit, enough so that my face ends up sideways before it disappears. Okay, and click back and test it. So you can do that if you want to. And this is going to come across a whole lot better with the sound applied, but we aren't going to be doing that for the rough draft. So go ahead and finish up with your bowling ball movement. We'll do one more thing for the rough draft. We'll animate a pin, but I'll split this up and I'll continue in the next video.